Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Hey guys!
Now, quick two disclaimers before we start this video. First of all, this is a re-upload because I messed up, played around too much with the audio, and it was terrible. I would normally curse, but YouTube's new regulation is that you can't curse in the first 30 seconds. Uh, so yeah, and the second thing is for the sake of making my job easier, I will refer sometimes to The Fault in Our Stars by its full title, or I will just say The Fault because it's shorter. With that being said, let's get into the actual video. So I have a difficult past actually with this movie. The Fault came out, or The Fault in Our Stars came around time. It was really popular, which put me off. Maybe you know it, but like when stuff blows up and gets popular, I'm usually not into it until a couple of years later or whatever. Still, I watched it and still I liked it back then. But there were elements that didn't click for me and that I didn't like certain tropes. It didn't ruin the movie for me. It's phenomenally acted. The characters are very charming, and overall, it's a nice movie to look at. Yet there was something that put me off, and for the most part, it was the ending. Because back then, I remember I was kind of disappointed of how anticlimactic it ends, and it took me a lot more movies to like get the point of this story. And I think, for example, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind did this okay thing better. Back then, I didn't really like the ending, like I said. Also, I didn't really like the whole drunk, disgruntled, awful kind of type. And yeah, there was another movie, but based on a book by the same author called Paper Towns, and Paper Towns is one of my most favorite movies. I cherish that film a lot, and weirdly enough, Paper Towns wasn't as successful, wasn't as appreciated as The Fault in Our Stars. Yet there, it also has like a open end, but I liked it more because there was a little bit more closure. And nowadays, I want to go back and rewatch the film. So that's gonna be the intro. I hope you stay with me, and I'm gonna tell you my thoughts after the film.
Okay.
Okay, on a second rewatch, I'm still telling you, second rewatch. I didn't watch it a third time. This week is kind of scuffed, so I don't have a time to watch it a third time. But I can pretty much tell you the thoughts that I had originally, kind of during the second rewatch of the film. I noticed some stuff that I didn't notice originally, or maybe I wasn't bothered enough to notice that stuff. For example, uh, the book story is kind of foreshadowed in a no, rather not the book. I mean the film. Obviously, the film is kind of foreshadowed in an in-universe book that the main character Hazel is constantly reading. And this time I didn't mind so much of things that I was bothered by when I originally watched the film, like almost 10 years ago. That's wild. That's really kind of wild. Uh, what bothered me was that Augustus is kind of too perfect in this film. It's only later on that this facade is peeled back, but even then it doesn't go super deep into it or in his character flaws. His like main problem is that he doesn't want to be forgotten. He wants to leave some kind of mark in this world, and yeah, kind of that's what we all want. So it's a sort of superficial thing to worry about because, like Hazel points out rightfully, we all will be forgotten at some point, and there's nothing we can do about it. So yeah, his character just doesn't reach too deep into it. You know, in TV or movie or generally media trope is the manic pixie dream girl. It shows up in 500 Days of Summer, for example, and Augustus is a manic pixie dream boy because his main purpose is to serve the protagonist, and you don't really feel like he has an outside life. And yeah, maybe it's not that super interesting to like get pages or countless movie scenes from his perspective because we don't have forever time. It is a film with a limited allotted time to watch, you know. So I get that. It's just he doesn't have that much going on for himself, and he always kind of shows up when the main character Hazel needs her. Still, Ansel Elgort plays the shit out of Augustus. He's so fucking charming, it's unbelievable, and the chemistry he has with Shailene Woodley, while not romantic, it's still palpable, it's still really great, and you could feel maybe they could be even romantic in real life, but it kind of exists in a sphere of acting, and it's a different story to kind of judge how much the chemistry matches in a film between a film and a TV show, for example. And the main video and why it's also titled like this is the importance of okay. That's kind of their motto, therefore ever or whatever. When other people say I love you, they say okay. And I found it really cringy back then, didn't really like it. Now, with a more, let's say, mature perspective, I get it, you know. I just feel the eternal sunshine of a spotless mind did it better, which is why I'm showing it in the beginning. So that doesn't really have changed. That doesn't really have changed or has changed in that regard. The soundtrack also slaps. You know, they have a Birdie song, and I hate Birdie, not for the reason that you might think. Birdie is really talented as a singer. It's just, and she doesn't produce bad music, I would say. It's just that Birdie elicits these intense emotions in me that I often try to bury. And whenever I hear a song, it all goes up this human side in me. So that's kind of the reason why I hate her. Another thing that I have to thank the film for is, due to the film, my sister and I would constantly say, like, when questioned about life, my life is a roller coaster that only goes up. And I didn't know that it stems from this film. totally forgot that. So that's great to remember. The soundtrack slaps, definitely. But I've already said it, I just want to mention it again. And it just has this great charm, and it's also kind of a time capsule for a different youth, because nowadays the youth is totally different to the day, and it's always very interesting to see, you know, how fast things have changed in like 10 years. If you go back further in time and watch, for example, 13 with Rachel Evan Wood and Nikki Reed, it's a totally different youth film with kind of different messages and another youth culture, and that's even further back, you know. So that's my general thinking. This is not a review or anything. It's just revisiting an old film and getting a new perspective and telling you about all of this. You know, just thinking. So this is not gonna have a rating. And if you enjoyed this second attempt at this video with hopefully a better audio, then leave a like, a comment, tell me what you think about it. Feedback is always important, and generally, what's your okay in your relationship, if you have one, or even if it's not with a romantic partner? What's your okay with somebody from your family or your closest friend? Tell me all about it down in the comments, and goodbye. Actually, not goodbye. And that's kind of the epilogue, because when speaking about death, there's this thing that always stuck with me, and that for that I have to further explain. Back then I was like in my youth I was like a guidance counselor for teens in my local church, and helped out there and getting teens to confirmation and through the whole process. And every year when we tackled the subject of death, which is quite prevalent in The Fault in Our Stars, we watched the scene from Scrubs, and this scene and this message has kind of stuck with me, so I'm gonna show that at the end. Then I'm gonna end it totally. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye. Cue to the clip.
Well, if it were me, I would just hope that my last thought was a good one.
Don't forget to subscribe!